gonna be hard for people to hear. I want you to really understand this. But avoidance aren't wrong. Avoidance aren't wrong. In fact, you're almost always right. You learned your parents so well that you could hear their no before they even open their mouth. Right? Right? And eventually they didn't even have to neglect you. You knew how to do it for them. That's how good you got at this. But there's something that nobody ever told you about your mother or your father or whoever raised you. They had a protege. They did. Somebody was there for every lesson. Somebody learned exactly what silence does to a person who needs you, what distance does, what overwhelm does, what that little change in your face does when somebody brings you one need too many. Somebody was there for that. Somebody received firsthand training in how to make another human being stop asking. That protege was you. It was you. And then somebody loved you and made the same mistake you made as a child. They needed you. And you knew exactly what to do with that. You did. You raised them. And that's what nobody told you. Some of your partners couldn't just love you. They had to be raised by your avoidance first. They had to learn when you could handle them. They had to learn which feelings changed your face. Learn which questions cost them access to you. How long your silence lasted. And they had to learn that reaching for you while you were withdrawing only made you disappear faster. That's what they had to discover. They had to learn when tonight wasn't the night. They had to learn you. It almost sounds positive, right? But it's the same way that you learned your parents. You trained them the same way your parents trained you without ever admitting there was a lesson. Doesn't that sound familiar too? Eventually they knew. Need less. Ask later. Cry somewhere else. Handle it yourself. Don't ruin the good night. They're already overwhelmed. Don't send another text. Give them space. Be patient. Be understanding. Be easy. Look at what you taught them. You taught them how to survive you. You. And the sickest part is that you recognize the result of this as maturity. Of course you did. They called it that when it happened to you. When it happened to you, you spent your childhood and maybe most of your adult life grieving what somebody's emotional absence forced you to become. And then when somebody loved you long enough, you watched them become it. Independent, low maintenance, self-regulating, careful, patient, good at being alone. You hear how all these are so convenient, good at knowing when not to ask, good at hurting without interrupting anybody. You didn't steal your childhood. You started casting it. You did not heal your childhood. I want you to know you did not heal your childhood. All you did was find different people and cast them as the same child. Every relationship gave you an opportunity to finally see what your parent looked like from the outside. And every time you kept looking at yourself. And this is why avoidance got too comfortable for you. It did. It got too comfortable for you because it keeps you in a child's chair and you're grown as hell and it keeps the camera pointed at you. What happened to me? Why do I shut down? Why do I need space? Why does intimacy scare me? Why do I always want to leave? Me. It's the issue. You spent years studying that child in the chair. Let's look at what you do to other people. Because somebody right now is learning not to cry in front of you. Somebody's rehearsing a simple need before they bring it to you. How familiar is that? And you're proud of yourself? You think avoidance is something funny that you do? Somebody is deciding whether tonight is safe enough to tell you that they're hurting. Somebody who used to reach for people freely, is learning how to handle everything themselves. You know that child. You talk about that child all damn day, but you never expected to meet them from this side. That's the horror of it all. Because avoidance didn't become dangerous because you stopped loving people. You became fluent in the conditions that created you. Think about it. Think about it for real. You know exactly how emotional neglect works. You know exactly how distance disciplines need. You know exactly how unpredictability teaches people and teaches somebody to monitor a room. How withdrawal teaches somebody to stop reaching. How somebody becomes hyper independent. You literally had firsthand training and you thought all that pain didn't raise anything? It raised you. And unfortunately, it taught you the curriculum. Your parents didn't leave much, but they left you instructions on how to reproduce this system. They did. That's all they did. They gave you instructions on how to reproduce their abuse, but didn't even give you a map through life. I want you to know how pathetic this shit really gets, because nobody ever takes it seriously. You didn't have to tell your partner, stop needing me. Your absence did it. Ain't that familiar? You didn't say your emotions are too much. Your face did it. Wow. Is it clicking for you yet? You didn't have to say handle it yourself. Your relief when they finally did told them everything. It told them everything. That's how you were raised too. Nobody handed you a playbook. The pain taught by consequence. That's what it is. And you learned the lesson so well that eventually you became qualified at teaching it without speaking. A legend at it. That's why this hurts. Because you spent years trying not to sound like your mom or your dad. And I want you to know something. You sure did succeed. Your words sound nothing like her because your consequences do. That's the part you missed. You hear her everywhere, don't you? Everywhere. Somebody gets disappointed in you, you hear her. Somebody needs reassurance. You hear her. Somebody says you've been distant. You hear her. Somebody says, can we just talk about what happened? You're not listening to one sentence anymore. You're listening to every conversation that you survived, all arriving at once. And before this person can even become themselves, the person standing in front of you, you've already made them somebody you know how to escape. You know how sick this shit is? You can predict your parents' echoes so perfectly that sometimes you hear your own psychology louder than you hear the person you're supposedly loving. They say, I miss you. You hear, you're failing me. They say, I need more consistency. Simple sentence. You hear, nothing you do will ever be enough. They say, can we finish this conversation? You hear, you aren't allowed to leave. Because the prediction feels old, it feels true, don't it? You call the exit discernment. You call the distance peace. You call the repetition a pattern. You call the disappearance regulation. And eventually, you learn to call some of this boundaries. Let's talk about boundaries. Let's be grown. Let's be grown here, because I'm not being easy on you about this. You worked on this, didn't you? You actually tried. You went to therapy. You learned boundaries. You learned triggers, capacity, regulation, attachment. You learned that you weren't responsible for somebody else's emotions. You did the work. I'm so proud of you. But avoidance sat right beside you, taking more notes than you did. It was listening and learning. It was waiting to find out what else it was allowed to call itself now. Before therapy, you could be straight up. I don't want to talk about this. That's a straight up sentence. After therapy, I don't have the capacity for this conversation. Before therapy, silence. After therapy, space. Before therapy, distance. After therapy, boundaries around access to me. And sometimes those words are exactly right. And that's what makes this so difficult. Because avoidance doesn't have to reject therapy. What? People act like the avoidant wouldn't show up to therapy. The avoidant is absolutely in therapy. They are recruiting it. They can answer every question without answering the question underneath it. They can explain the trigger without locating the terror. They can explain their childhood without grieving it. Explain the boundary without asking what the boundary repeatedly protects. It's the same thing. They can explain why somebody can't reach you without ever asking why being unreachable feels so safe. So even when therapy works for you, you can refuse to work for it. Sure can. You can become extraordinarily self-aware. You can become extraordinarily unavailable at the same time too. Yep, you can explain your disappearance while disappearing. You can give somebody a psychologically sophisticated explanation for why they're about to lose access to you. Your closed door learned how to speak. Your avoidance went to therapy and came home with a larger vocabulary. That's all I'm saying to you. So, I do not care if you can explain yourself. No, I want to know something else. Did all that healing make anybody safer needing you? Not safer at respecting your boundaries. I don't give a fuck. I don't even want to hear that. Not safer at giving you space. Not safer at becoming more capable of regulating yourself. Not even at being less likely to activate you. I'm talking about safer needing you. Because if everybody who loves you eventually becomes better at needing nothing from you, I'm not convinced you're meeting secure people. You just getting better at raising people. That's it. Look how beautiful the people you raise become. Patient, independent, understanding, low maintenance. They don't chase, they don't double text, they don't even need constant reassurance. They know how to give you space. They know how to hurt quietly. They know how to love you without requiring very much of you. And finally, there's peace. Except somewhere inside that relationship, another person just learned, when I need less, love stays. And you know exactly what happens to a person who learns that. You're what happens. So let's just go to the question. I'm done. Not what happened to you. We spent enough time there. I don't want to hear about that no more. Not are you avoidant? You know. I want you to pull out your fingers and count how many people that had to become you to survive loving you. Who stopped asking? Who stopped crying in front of you? Who learned your moods? Who started saying never mind? Who learned that your warmth returned? When their need disappeared? Just like your childhood. Who became hyper independent after meeting you? Who learned to sleep while the relationship was unresolved because you weren't coming back to the conversation tonight? I'm so serious. I want you to count because you were right. Your parent did something terrible. They taught a child that needing somebody was dangerous. But after you spent years grieving that child, if you're not careful, you will leave that child everywhere you are loved. Everywhere. Different face, different body, different relationship, same lesson. Need less, love stays. That's what you've been operating on. And this is why I refuse to let your pain steal from you one more time. Because it literally already stole enough. And now after everything you survived is trying to make the place that you're trying to be loved something that somebody else has to survive. You don't get to call that peace. You don't get to call every repetition discernment. For real. I'm so serious. And you definitely don't get to spend the rest of your life grieving the child while also raising the child that you don't even want to see. Right? You don't even want to spend time around that child. I'm so serious. This injury is yours. I want you to carry it and limp if you have to. I'm serious. Because if the next person says, I need you, they deserve to be able to finish that sentence without your childhood finishing it for them.